Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of our Q&A, where we sit down, we answer some of your questions, except for today is going to be a little bit different because sitting across from me is not Dave Sanders, and we're not going to be answering some direct questions that you have, but we're going to get some great insight into who we are as here at Connections, some of our history, and we're going to get it from one of the absolute founding fathers of the church right here, right? This is Jon Krum. If you don't know, he's one of our elders here at Connections, and like I said, he is one of the founding members of this church. So tonight we are going to jump into a little bit of church history. We're going to talk a little bit about the big wins that we've seen Connections have over the years. But before we start, Jon, thank you for joining us tonight. It's good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and about the history of the church. I like to talk about it, but things are good. I can't complain a bit.
Good. Give us just, for people who don't know you, maybe they know you because you are also one of our door greeters, so they might have seen you come in.
Right.
You know, you might have greeted them on their way in. Give us a little background, like who is Jon Krum? What?
Okay. I grew up in Schoolcraft my whole life.
So you've lived here your entire life.
Yep. I grew up here. Went to school to Valley, and then I went to Western. Got married, moved to Schoolcraft, and stayed right here. And we have a family Chevrolet business we had for many, 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 many years. And so, yeah, product right here of Schoolcraft, Michigan.
So the Krum dealership, that was founded by your father?
Founded by my great-grandpa. My brother and I are a fourth generation of the car business.
Okay.
Yes, it started in 1888 as a livery stable selling black ice.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how far back it goes.
So when did it transition into cars?
I believe in 1923 we became one of the third or fourth Chevrolet stores in the state of Michigan to have a Chevrolet franchise in Schoolcraft. And that's how it got started with my great-grandpa.
Okay.
And then it moved on to my grandpa, and then my father, and then my brother and I.
And so when did you jump into that business? How old were you?
Well, it was actually, I got into it in the early 80s when I got involved in it, and stayed involved in it until 2017 when I retired. And in the meantime, we have sold out to the Cole Group, who bought us out back in 2007.
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of years, a lot of Chevrolet cars going through. Yes, saw a lot.
So you've been in Schoolcraft for quite a while.
Yep.
What's some of the biggest? What's something that you absolutely love about Schoolcraft? What has kept you here?
The community, the people, the town, who we are, what we stand for, the highs and the lows that go on in a small town. Every year I know it's been a struggle the last few years, but 4th of July is always a big deal. And people come in town for Schoolcraft. That was always the biggest grump as a kid, was 4th of July, and it still is now.
Yeah, I know there was they canceled the parade this year. I know that Schoolcraft has had a lot of construction over the past couple of years, which is why the last couple of years have been a little bit up in the air.
Right.
But they canceled the parade this year, and I know that was a big deal.
Huge. Well, you think about our parade for 2 years during COVID, they canceled. And then they had it for 2 years and canceled because of the construction last year, and canceled this year because of issues and not having enough coverage. So we haven't had a parade out of 6 years, only had it twice.
Wow.
That's a big issue. And hopefully they'll get back and we'll continue having our parade. And it was a small town. And yeah, it's just a great town to grow up in. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah. Now, I know a lot of our people that come to Connections, there are some people from Schoolcraft, several people from Vicksburg, Portage, Kalamazoo area. We have people from Plainwell. We have people from Three Rivers, Lawton, Matawan, all over. They all come. But they come to Connections, and Connections technically is in Schoolcraft, even though we're kind of on the outskirts, right?
Right.
For anybody who's looking for that one little Schoolcraft secret, that little place that you're like, this is our little hometown secret, Spill the beans. What does Schoolcraft offer? What can we come and experience only here in Schoolcraft?
Oh my gosh. Good question, Steve. I just think when you drive through Schoolcraft and you stop, and I always say you smell the roses in Schoolcraft when you stop and you get a sandwich at Bud's Bar, or if you go to a Friday night football game, or you get involved in a lot of community stuff that we have. It's just a lot of things that you can do in Schoolcraft. But one thing that really sticks out, I just think it's the people. I just think it's the people. It's changed over the years. People come and go more than they used to. I think about the time when our parents, when they were what they were doing now in our 60s, giving my age away, that what they were doing, there was so much going on. I respected my parents and all the things that they did back then for the village because they made it great. And now here we are doing what they were doing, but it's a different time.
Sure.
That's the big thing. It's a bigger time. But we always respected what they did and everything, and the get-togethers, the parties, the just being great people back then. So it's still the people. It's the people of the town.
Yeah. And that's good to hear. That's good for us to know, too, as a church, right? We are part of this community.
Right.
Our church is
betcha.
here, and we do feel responsible for reaching this community and all of the surrounding communities. But to really have a good insight into who Schoolcraft is, who the people are, kind of the flavor of who they are is really important for us to understand. And so for someone like you who's been here his whole life, like you have some insight to that's going to be critical and vital to us as a church to really impact this community. So that's cool. That's cool. Tell us a little bit about your family. When we come to church, right? When we come here and we interact with people, a lot of times those interactions don't really get past that surface level.
Correct.
One, because of time.
Right.
Like we are on a pretty tight
You
schedule.
betcha.
We're turning people over because we got 3 services we got to get through. So we're moving people in, we're moving people out.
Right.
There probably is a lot of people who have seen you, maybe even known you over the past several years, but don't actually know Jon Krum. Give us a little bit about your family. Fill us in.
Okay. I am married to my wife, Lori.
Who's great. We love her around here.
She's love Lori. Yeah.
She is fantastic.
Thank you. Yes. I got a wonderful wife. I've been married to her for 21 years this November. I have 2 boys, Blake, who's 32, and Grant, 29. My first wife was Heidi, and she passed away 20-some years ago. And then I met Lori. I've been very blessed to have 2 wonderful wives. Very blessed. God has just done wonderful for me. And so, I got married in 84 to Heidi, and we lived in the same house. So we got, and I got married, still raised the boys there. She passed. Lori moved in, and we got married. And I've been in the same house for 40-some years. It's been, I'm very well blessed. And to have this church where I used to go and what I want, where I've been and where I've come now is night and day.
Yeah. And one of your sons just got married, right?
Yes, Grant just got married here back in June.
Yeah.
Yep, just got married.
So maybe grandpa on the horizon?
Well, we just had our first grandchild a year ago from Blake. He had a little boy named Cash back in June of 24. So Lori and I are happy grandpa and grandma.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Good. Anything else you want to fill us in on? Who is Jon Krum? Anything that you're excited about? Are you excited about football season coming up? Like, is that a thing for you? Or
Well, I'm a sports nut. I love my sports. So listen to the thing about it. You always talk about, in Texas, Friday night football. Mm-hmm. It's like Schoolcraft football on Friday night. For years, it's been going on. Friday night football to watch Schoolcraft. Saturday college football. That's the best.
Who's your team?
Spartans.
There you go.
Yep. Michigan State. Go green. So yeah,
You can put it in the comments right now
Yes.
if you agree with John or if you go blue. But if you're rooting for Ohio State, I think now is the time you can exit.
yeah, that's right. Yep.
No, we're just kidding. We love you
Yeah.
despite.
So yeah, and got the Lions on Sunday. I always enjoy my Michigan pro sports. I love sports. I played tennis through high school. Played a lot of basketball. I just like being outside.
Good.
I just enjoy the outside. Now I don't play a lot of basketball or tennis anymore, but very active, and
You gotten into the pickleball craze?
I have.
Have you?
I don't play a lot, but I do play it because it's just like playing tennis.
Yeah.
Just in a smaller area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So if you want to challenge John to a game of pickleball, contact us. We're gonna hook you up.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see if you can beat
Yeah.
beat John Krum
Yeah.
at pickleball.
Yeah. First time I played pickleball, they talked about being in the kitchen. And I thought, you can't be in the kitchen. I thought, every time I stepped over the line, they said, you're in the kitchen. And my first reaction was, where's the microwave or where's the refrigerator if I'm in the kitchen? But anyway, it's a fun game to play.
That's good. That's good. All right. Well, John, let's jump into a little bit of the history of the church because there's so much that you can fill us in on because you have been here since the beginning.
The day one.
Yeah. Talk to us about day one on why Connections started, where it came from. What is the where did it get born from? Why does Connections exist?
Well, there was a group of about 4 families that were going to church in Kalamazoo called the Wesleyan Church. And some of the families had some small kids, and some of the wives, not the guys, talked about having a church in Schoolcraft, a non-denomination, and somewhere, because these are called the prairies of Schoolcraft. This is the prairies. And we thought we needed to start a church in Schoolcraft.
Wait, back. I know we're going to get to that.
Okay.
Explain that prairies of Schoolcraft. What is that?
Well, Michigan, in this area here, we have a lot of prairie, a lot of land here. So it's just the prairies because it's all over. It's just corn and beans, and it's we have a lot of crops and just a lot of area where. It's just a lot of prairies out here. So,
And that was a term that was
Yes.
used to describe this area.
Years ago.
Gotcha.
It still is today. So it was talked about, and it went on for a few months, probably 4 or 5 months, and finally the wives just said, "We're going to do this. We are going to, after 1st of January, we're leaving the church in Kalamazoo, and we got a few of those families around the area in Schoolcraft that were going to different churches, wanted to be on board because they wanted a church in Schoolcraft, and they wanted to be a non-denomination." So, all that being said,
What year was
January of 1996,
this? Okay.
we decided to do that. So we did. And so January, maybe second week of January, we maybe had 10 couples and 10 to 12 couples, and we had the first service in our house. And the kids went to another house. So we had a kids' service, or church service, but at a different building or another home, and it all started right there.
So when was the reason to leave the other church mostly driven by location, or were there other reasons that you felt we need to step away?
I think you're right. I think, Steve, location had a lot to do with it. But I think also we were all in that age of the early 30s that we wanted to change. We wanted to be part of the community somewhere else in Schoolcraft, which the families that got started were all born and raised here in Schoolcraft. We wanted to be home.
Right.
A lot of us grew up in churches in Schoolcraft, but we wanted something where God was there for us 24/7.
Right.
And so that's really what we wanted. And that's how it got started.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And at that time, during that decade too, it seems like a lot of the way church was structured historically was starting to really shift, right? We were starting to see a lot more contemporary music enter the church.
Correct.
We were starting to see the church adapt a little more to the culture rather than stay grounded in just those traditions that have lasted forever.
Right.
So we were starting to see some of that shift historically in the modern American church
Right.
culture. So it makes sense at that time that you guys are doing this. Talk to us through those first several months, that first year, however long it was during that home church time. What was that experience like? What were some of those things that you were like, yes, this is exactly where God wants us?
I think it was when we first met at our house and people came in, we tried to make everybody feel welcome. And it's funny you say that because we welcome people the same way people welcome here. We had cookies, water, when people to feel like they were, could walk in and feel comfortable. Because there's some of the people that walked in, I knew them, but didn't know their background. And if somebody walks into your house for the first time, you're having a service, what are we having here? So we had to make it feel comfortable. Once we got started into the year and we started getting more families, we realized we got something special going here. Because our first service was in our house. Remember back then when they had Promise Keepers?
Oh, yeah.
That 8-track, stuck it in the TV and we watched that. That was our first service in our house. It was an 8-track watching Promise Keepers.
Wow.
Which was, I went to that recently before that, and that's a great intervention for me.
Did you go to it when it was down in the Silver Dome?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
I went to.
It was fantastic. Funny story about that is that we were there, and we were like 10 guys, and they separated us in a group a couple of times, and we got separated to a group next to us, and we were talking to them. Couldn't speak English. So it was, we couldn't understand. They couldn't understand us, and they were smiling, and we're smiling, and so it was like, oh, this, But it was really neat.
Yeah.
But it's all right. But anyway, so as the summer went on, we had more families. We started picking up. We had more kids. We had to start thinking of other places where we're going to go, where God's leading us.
Did you have a preacher at that time, or
we
was
did not? It was all within the house of somebody leading us, probably until about June or July of that summer. Either we put an 8-track in of some type, or somebody spoke from the Bible and did verses, and then we'd talk about it.
Yeah. And what was your role or your function as maybe I'm assuming at some point you have to start talking structure of how is this church going to function?
Well,
how is it going to roll?
We did.
Run?
We sort of got a committee. We put people on like a small board, and they sort of ran what they were supposed to do. Mine was more of, I think, George, making sure at that time where we were going to meet the next week and who was going to take care of things. We had somebody we had a secretary because we were starting getting donations to come in. Because we went to the state of Michigan, got our license, so we could be called the Prairie Chapel.
Yeah, talk to us through that name, because I know we're obviously not called the Prairie Chapel anymore.
Right.
When somebody hears Prairie Chapel, there's a lot of imagery that comes up, and it's not reflective of who we are now.
Right.
But talk to us about how you decided that name, and then we can talk about how that name change all played out.
Well, once again, it was more of the wives. They wanted it, they wanted it to be called the Schoolcraft Prairie Chapel. Because again, living in the prairies, that's what they wanted. And as the men, we didn't really argue about it or say much about it. It sounded good to us. So that's really how it got started, through the wives, because Schoolcraft Prairie Chapel. And so we got our license, went to Lansing and got it taken care of, and then donations started coming in. So everybody started to have their own little niche, what they were doing within the church, until about the middle of June. Then we realized we were getting 40 to 50 people. We thought, we need to go somewhere.
Yeah.
We have to do something
So you
different.
were rotating houses.
Correct.
So it wasn't always at your
Right.
house.
No, rotated houses. So if it was at somebody else's house, we may have the kids. And that got to be quite a bit, having kids in your house, because you had from infants to all the way to middle school kids.
Sure.
And it was, yeah. So it was like, we got to find somewhere to go.
Yeah. So how, at what point did you transition to a new place?
I believe, Steve, it had to be sometime, I'm going to say midsummer.
Okay.
Midsummer that year of 96 that we moved into it's now tore down, but we moved into we called it the upper L, the multi-purpose room.
At the school?
At the school.
Yep.
And yes, and we had connections. Some of our, I want to say we were members, but part of the church at that time worked at the school and got us into the school, and we started having services there.
Yeah. So for a good 6 or 7 months, you guys met in houses.
Right.
And then you transitioned to the school.
Mm-hmm.
At what point did you guys get to a place where you're like, we need to hire somebody to come in and lead this church?
That was in probably August or so of that summer.
So right
away,
right after
yeah.
you guys moved into
and we
the
have
school.
talked to a family. One of our families in our church had a brother who was a pastor out west, and he wanted to get back home. And like Perry, he had 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl, and he wanted to get back to this area, and they were about Perry's kids' age in that
Sure.
age group there. So I didn't know him, but a lot of people knew him, and so he came back in August, and we got him a house to rent, and then he stayed there for a while, and it was a great transaction back for the next 5 years that he stayed with us.
Yeah, and fill everybody in who he is. Like
His name was Rusty Teen, and that would have been Ted Manning, our former his brother-in-law. It was his wife Christy's brother.
Gotcha.
So that's how all that connection started there. And he came from a church from out west. I can't tell you exactly what church it was, but he wanted to come home.
Yeah.
Because he had
and for
family
those
there.
of you who don't know, Ted Manning, we're still connected with Ted Manning.
Yep.
He runs the FCA up in the Grand Rapids area, that whole region, and he's still one of our mission partners that we support. Great family. We love him. Ted, if you're watching, we miss you and hope to see you again soon. But
I don't miss you, Ted, but that's okay. I didn't want you to throw your name out there, Ted, but I did. Yeah, you know.
Great. Well, that's cool. So Rusty then was here, and talk to us a little bit about that time, those 5 years that he was here. What did we see? What were some of the big wins that we saw the church do during that time?
Just the growth of people that I knew, but really didn't know a lot about their background. And a lot of people didn't really know for sure where they belong. But they found out about this church that they could go on Sunday and they could sit and have coffee and drink water and have food during the service, things that just don't happen in a normal church. And we had music and contemporary music. We were doing hymnals. And as you talked about earlier, Steve, there was that change.
It's a critical time of American church, culture where a lot of that music was shifting.
Right. And afterwards, everybody would stick around and talk because we had food, and people,
people like food.
They do. They like food. So it just sort of grew from 30 to 40 to like 110 people. We're starting to grow in that first year, and people just started coming, and people started volunteering to do things. Then we realized now we really have to have people in position.
Yeah.
I didn't really have elders at that time, but we had board members, secretary, a treasurer, and then we put volunteers in positions. We had to use, for sometimes, because we couldn't use some of the rooms, we used the hallways and blocked it off for kids' nursery. So we had to use hallways. And we got to use the high school gym for some of our classrooms, and they got to be used as some of our older kids, high school kids in the evenings for basketball, whatever programs we had.
Yeah.
But we were limited how we could do it all. But the growth is what amazed me, and the people that I saw come in, and the people that I saw that came from different backgrounds, and the growth that I saw in coming to God. It's just unbelievable. And the friends that I met through, it's funny, Steve, because I don't want to go to now, but then when we started to grow and get to a couple hundred to 200 people, I knew 90% of the people, not 10. Take today, I know 10 and don't know 90% of the people, which I think is great. I think is, really great. I like to know more people, but I think that's a wow factor.
Yeah, our impact now.
Oh my gosh,
seems to exponentially grow.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So it was really those 5 years as we grew and brought people in. And, I have to respect also, because I grew up in the Presbyterian church all my whole life. Then when I got into high school and into college, I didn't go to church a lot back then. But I never want to take away where my roots were with my family of going to church, because I know when we started the church in Schoolcraft, there was some animosity of taking people leaving the local churches and come to this Prairie Chapel, and what's this all about?
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure that had nothing to do with it. It's just who I were, and who we were, and what was going on.
Yeah.
I still have all the respect for those churches and what they do and how they operate.
Right.
But that was a time of a change that we were looking for. Especially my wife and I and a few people. We need this change. We need God in this way. So anyway. So yes, the next 5 years, Rusty was here. The growth, the things, the challenges, as we talked earlier, the moguls up and down, and with people, coming and going and trying to keep people in place. So yeah,
it's a challenging time as a church too when you're in a tear down setup mode every single week.
Every week,
you're pushing volunteers really hard,
right?
But it's also a very exciting time because you are seeing some real exciting growth, real exciting change.
Yeah.
People really coming and pulling together. Now, Rusty stayed for a little while, but then he left.
Rusty left, and then that was after about 5 years. And we're still, like you said, Steve, we're still the same group of people that started at that time. Most of them are still there, and we're that 10% of doing all the work. We're still doing all the same thing. Tear down and putting up, organizing things, going through difficult times. So when Rusty left, then we had that time frame, probably 6 to 8 months of people in our church preaching. What's our next step?
Right.
Then we started to notice, I believe, a little bit that we're starting to maybe lose a few people because we haven't got a pastor.
Right.
People want a pastor up there. So then we started going out and about. If I think I'm right, Steve, one of our not a pastor, but one of our members was from Wisconsin and knew Dave. So he had been preaching for a while. And he just said, I know a gentleman from Wisconsin, it may like to, come this way. And so that went on for maybe a while, talking about this guy. Yeah, I could say this guy, but it was Dave. Yeah. And we're still just thinking, we're struggling as a board now what we need to do here and how we're going to get people to stay with us and have patience, love your neighbor. We're going to be okay here. We just need some time here. So finally, I believe, and that's about the time when my first wife was really starting to get sick, and I wasn't in church till I had 2 young kids. My boys were very young, so I was off the board at that time. And Dave came to visit for the first time, and I missed it because I couldn't be there. But people said that Dave came, he said, he looks like Robin Williams. Remember
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, but he had red hair, they said, something like that. But anyway, so they said he did a great job. And he's from Wisconsin, and he spoke very well. And he's got 5 kids, and I think he would like to leave where he's at in Wisconsin and come this way. So, okay. So maybe he came back next time I came to church, and I remember watching him preach up there, and I looked at him and I thought, oh my gosh, looks just like Robin Williams. It just looks like him. Even today, he's got that little smirk, you look at him just right. So all this.
See, I think he looks a little more like Danny Bonaducci.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. So we hired him, and like Dave said today, he had no idea where he was coming to Schoolcraft, Michigan, this small little town. What am I doing? And when he got here, and he came in, and I think 4 of his kids went to school. I think Josh at that time was a senior at this was he maybe in Illinois at that time? Maybe I'm wrong, Steve. Illinois, maybe. I can't remember. Or was it Wisconsin? Anyway, he stayed and went to school there and finished up with the 4 other ones. Lindsay, John, Laura, and Joe all went to school here. They were all like 4th, 5th, all the way up to about 8th grade or 9th grade, and they came. And then Sandy came, and he just sort of took, as we know today, Dave just sort of took off and took over and, made some changes in how we do things, and we just sort of ran with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we stayed there for probably another 5 years, 5 or 6 years we stayed there. And it was hard because we're bigger and we're starting to run a room. We're setting up more chairs. Now we're asking the school, can we have rooms to use? Then we have to take the rooms apart and put the rooms back together. And once again, you're still same amount of people doing the same old work.
Right.
As you understand that.
Yep.
But when Dave walked in the door, it was just something about Dave when he came in. It was just a change from when Rusty left, that time frame. It was just like people started coming, and I used to look around because I was always worried about, are we doing the right thing? Are people listening? Are we okay? And people are just like, it was quiet. Like a pin could just drop and you couldn't hear anything. And he had everybody's attention, and his ideas were good. But you're always going to have, like, again, your mogul up and down. Your people aren't always going to agree with you, what you're doing. You still have people, thank you very much. But then you had a lot more people coming in and then less people going out. And it was a great transaction. And a lot more people are coming in, a lot more people, and started to come out from different areas now. Yeah. We started drawing in from more of Vicksburg and a few Three Rivers and stuff like that.
Yeah. Now I know you were probably a big part of the conversations surrounding this property, this area, where we are today.
Right.
We're going to skip through some of the history because we've talked about it on here before. The name change
right.
stuff,
Yep.
going from Prairie Chapel to Connections. I know that was a big, a big church kind of battle. I think Dave calls it the name wars or the name change wars or something.
Yeah, that was big because you still had people who were from the beginning. This was the Prairie Chapel, and sometimes people don't like change, and it was very difficult. I think my wife at the time, Heidi, was like the Prairie Chapel, but we just said let's leave this in God's hand, and see what happens. Well, it's too bad that I would never had that chance to see what happened, but it all worked out. But yes, there was that time where, wait a minute, Dave came in and
that's a big change.
It's
to come
a huge
in and
change.
change your identity or your
Exactly.
perceived identity, right?
Right. Yeah.
But really, I and we know the heart behind it was how do we have a bigger impact on more people? And how do we be a little more attractive?
Yeah.
And Prairie Chapel kind of screams small, include. Very. Right. You're not really including everybody.
Right.
You got to be part of it.
You're very right there, Steve. Yeah, that's exactly right. You're just like you have your own little group.
Right.
And that's not what God wants. He wants you to open the doors, let everybody in. So yeah.
So this property that we're sitting on now is a critical corner in this whole area, right? Corner of you and 131.
Yep.
Everybody drives.
Yep.
We have thousands, hundreds of thousands of people driving by here every single day. Talk to us a little bit about the conversations that you remember having about the purchase of this land versus other options that I know were available or we had bought and then we sold and then we bought this.
Yeah.
Just give us a little bit of your perspective of how you feel God really ushered us this direction.
Well, he really did. I mean, God just intervened, and it was really towards the last minute thing because we had planned on building our church right off of Lion Street by the high school. We had property that one of our members had was building homes back there, was telling us his property, and we thought, well, that's perfect. It's just off the highway. People can turn on to Lion Street, and you're there. It's a perfect area. We're sort of gung-ho about it, and I think we might have been we were called Connections, and we thought, well, this is perfect. We'll go right here. And then all of a sudden, this corner came up. This used to be, I think it was called Mike's Mobile Home Park. It wasn't a park, but he sold mobile homes. He sold them here, and I think it was for sale. And I'm not sure who saw it first, if it was Dave or who saw it, and we started looking at it. But of course, then again, not everybody was thinking, no, we want to be in Schoolcraft, not in town. We don't need to be outside of town. We want to be in Schoolcraft. And Dave was always thinking of this is our home. We're going to have satellite churches, and this is where I think we should be. It's right on the corner. It's a lot of traffic. And I think my biggest concern was it's a bad corner. I just think it's a bad corner because it's U Avenue, yada, yada, yada. There's always a lot of accidents, and, but there's other reasons. But I was also there thinking, it's got 20 acres. Or over there, I think we had 8 or 10 acres, So this went on for a little bit. But when this finally we realized, and we all walked out here as a board, anybody who wanted to come out and look at it and realize, and I think I realized that this is really a place we got to be. This is huge. And like you said, Steve, there's 30,000 cars a day going by here. It's stop at that stop sign and look to the right and say, hey, there's a church right here. I live in Three Rivers. I live in Vicksburg. Maybe we should check this church out sometime. The convenience of that. So that was huge because we're at that point where we were now in the high school auditorium, and we're starting to outgrow that. And the high school was very good about, letting us use it, but I think we were using their classrooms, and that was getting to be a lot of work, and sometimes things weren't put back the proper way. I think it was time that we got to do something.
Yeah.
We're at that point now in life, we need a church. So going from there was like, okay, and I think finally people just got on board and said, we got to go out here. We got to get to this four corner. This is where we got to be. Well, here, Steve, here we are since, 2016 at
Christmas
16. And you came a year or so later, and look where we are.
Yeah. It's been absolutely exciting to watch this church just continue to grow and have an impact, and to see that our mission and our vision has not changed.
Right.
The direction that we're going has not changed.
Right.
The tools that we have to implement it, continue to evolve and continue to change, and we have a bigger impact, which is exciting because now, we're in the middle of another building campaign,
yes.
Right? Our Imagine More building campaign to build a new auditorium, new lobby, to change all of the current space into children's and next gen space. And to know that when we complete that next tool, how much more of an impact we'll have.
Right.
Our mission and our vision, our values, none of that changes, but the tools can change, and we can have a greater and bigger impact.
You're so right, Steve.
So we're excited about that, and I think you guys I give you guys all the credit to following God's leadership and direction and saying, yeah, we had this one place, it was good, but it wasn't best,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
There's so much more we can do
Right.
here. And we have 20 acres that we're sitting on. And there's a
Exactly.
lot of dreams and there's a lot of plans for the potential to maximize every square foot that we have.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that.
I just think from starting day one in 96 in January to 2025 August, it's amazing what God has done. And all the people who have come to the Lord and
Yeah.
have been saved. I mean, it just makes my heart just beam when I hear those kind of things,
Yeah.
And where we are today with our worship, our staff, things that we can do that I never thought then, after listening to a Promise Keeper tape, and think here we are today in doing this. It's just amazing.
Yeah. And, it's refreshing, it's encouraging, it's uplifting to hear kind of there was a handful of faithful people who said, we want to make an impact in our community for our people. We want to make a change. And how cool it was led by these women who were like, we see this and let's go.
Yeah.
And, and I hope we always honor that. I hope we always, we lead by listening to God's direction in our life and then acting. Right. We got to make those actions count.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit. Now you're an elder here.
Correct.
At Connections, and you have been for a while. Talk to us a little bit about what that is, what that means. So some people, everybody has their own church experiences, right?
Right.
Churches sometimes are governed differently. And here at Connections, we have a group of elders that help oversee kind of the spiritual direction.
Right.
They are the ones that Dave works with the closest.
Correct.
We are a staff-led church, but we are an elder held accountable church.
Right.
Talk to us what it means to you to be an elder here and kind of some of your experiences you've had.
Well, I've been on a lot of boards over the years for the church here of different capacities, but as an elder board, I've been on here for a while, and my term's about up, and I'll be going off. But yeah, the elder board is something that basically that we overlook Dave and the decisions he makes, what he comes to us. Then from that point, you're right, he goes back to you as a staff, and with our blessings or not, what it might be, to do what he has to do for the staff to do. And I just want to also say, Steve, that I think your staff and what you guys do is a wonderful staff. You have your meetings, you're always on top of things, and I thank you and your staff for that. I think when you become an elder, you are very responsible for the whole church and the people in the church. And it's something you have to take very seriously of who you are, because you got to do some things sometimes you don't want to do. Fortunately, here it's been pretty mild, not a lot of things. But it's who we stand for in our church. And it's nice to have where Dave now, before we didn't really have an elder board, where Dave just made decisions and sort of did it. But now that he can come to us and we can oversee him, as I said before, makes a big difference.
Right.
That he can bounce things off us. Excuse me. Instead of him just going to do it, and then he makes a mistake, excuse me, and it doesn't work, then it's all on Dave.
Right.
And it shouldn't be. So we have a great elder board. There's 5 of us on the board, and it's something you take very seriously at that job. I like it and love it because when I come to church every Sunday, I just feel like, and being on the committee and doing it, I just feel like every Sunday that I come in, I feel like, wow, I'm making somebody's life better because I'm making this church better for the right decision for them. And I just think that everybody who should be on a committee in the church, something in some way, should be involved. I think you'll really appreciate he or she being on something that they like to do and think, wow, I'm on a committee and I like this. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question right, but elder board is just, we oversee Dave, we oversee some budgeting, and we oversee certain other things on the board, but mostly Dave.
Yeah.
Oversee Dave.
And it really is that spiritual direction,
Right.
right, of the church,
Right.
keeping him accountable, making sure he's not, saying heretical things
Right.
from
Right.
the pulpit,
Right.
and keeping the mission of the church on task, right? I think that's really how, at least what I've been told, is that's the direction of the elder board. Is
You're right. It's the mission of the
keeping
church. Yep.
That mission
Yep.
focused.
Yep.
And we're excited about that. Tell us just real briefly who's on the elder board.
Kathy
Currently.
DeMont, Craig Reagan, Steve Anderson, and Dave, and myself.
Yep. And just so people are aware of how kind of our elder board works, is it's a term of 3 years. You can serve 2 consecutive terms, but
Right.
then you are forced to take at least a year off.
Right.
And that just keeps everybody accountable. It keeps so there's no like life term,
Right.
elders that are
Well, it's
are
good
trying-
for a change.
Yeah, and it
bring
keeps.
some balance.
I mean, it's checks and balances,
Right,
right?
yeah.
And we have to understand that we are, even though we are a Christ-centered institution, we are broken people who have been redeemed by Christ, still trying to live out that mission. But we are human.
Yep,
And,
correct.
And we have to have some of those checks and balances.
Yeah.
Even Dave. That's why the elder board exists, right? To
right.
make sure
Yeah.
that Dave is
Yeah.
doing what he is supposed to be doing. So. Awesome. Give us maybe something that what's been one of the biggest wins since you've been an elder that you've either seen through the elder's perspective or through church, something that you've been so excited about.
Wow, there's a lot of things I've been excited about in the church with the elders. I just think it's where we are today, where people that are involved in our church that may have not have wanted to do that 5 years ago because they had no idea how to volunteer and what to do. Volunteers are so important to your church. If you're on the elder board, you're on the finance board, or if you're on the staff, that's a little different because you know when you're surrounding what you're supposed to do. But I think, to me, when I see people walk in for the first time and they want to work at the whatever department it might be in, the welcome center or whatever, is those are people walk in now that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they couldn't even walk in the door. And now they're doing something led by God to do something like that, and or greeting at the door or whatever it might be. There's just so many more people are involved. And then the people that come into your church, like I said, Steve, I don't even know 90%, I shouldn't say that many, but it just feels like I don't know a lot of those people walking the door, but they're coming in with their families, with a smile. They want to be there. They want to listen to Dave. They want to listen to worship. I think, Steve, the worship, and that's one thing I've always said, when I come to church, the worship sets the tone for the day. And I think you do a wonderful job. I think a lot of people appreciate the worship. People raising their hand, standing up and praising the Lord to get them started for the day. I just think that is so important. And things that I think, to me, volunteers, worship, and the kids in our church now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we got so many kids in our church now. And our staff and the programs. So I guess you're asking me what I've seen over the years are those things right there. It just makes my heart feel so good because we're growing, because the people are coming in the door, because we're on this corner that we're supposed to be in.
Yeah. Awesome. Finally, let's wrap this up. I being one of the founding members of Connections, What do you hope for the future? What do you want the legacy of Connections to live out to be?
I want it to continue to be what God had it intended to be from day one at this corner right here, to honor Him in all aspects of life and to make this a church that nobody's ever going to forget. As we get older and we pass, a generation comes up and takes over, that they just continue to do God's work and continue it all the way through. Because where it started, when we're gone, we're gone. That doesn't make any difference. We're gone. We have nothing to do it. But it's the people in the future, that our kids, that to take it over and run it, just as we started this. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
No, I think it is. I mean, it's why we exist, right? We say this regularly because it's our mission and we believe in it. Is here at Connections, we exist to connect as many people as possible to God, to each other, and to their purpose in life.
Yeah.
And to see that lived out through the people of Connections, our hope and our prayer is that we can leave it a little better than we found it, but that our children, the future generations, will take it even more and have a greater impact in our community and in our world.
Yeah, amen to that, Steve. I agree. Yeah, it's just great. It's just amazing. I sometimes I just drive by and I just look over and I think, wow, and then we're going to be adding on here, and seeing people come through that door. And I love my job, just greeting them. I just love people coming in the door, shaking their hand and talking to them, because you're the first impression.
Yeah.
And then they close the door. You're the second impression. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got your impressions all the way through. What's going to happen? Where am I? I want people to walk in that first time and say, I never been before. I know that feeling.
Right.
It's scary. You don't want that.
Yeah.
You want to give them the best opportunity you can. So,
yeah.
Amen to all of that.
Good. Well, Jon, thank you so much for sitting down with us and talking with us,
giving
us a little insight into the history of Connections, but really, the foundation of where it started and the excitement of where it's going.
Right.
We appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Steve, very much.
Great. If you have questions for us, we would love to answer them. We appreciate all of your questions here, where we can sit down in these orange chairs and answer them for you. And the best way to submit your questions is to go to our website, my3c.org, click on Ask a Question. Now, all of those questions are anonymous. We don't know who is asking the question. So you can ask anything that you want, and we're going to try to get to as many as we can. If you need to contact us, though, if you need to reach to us, please just click on this QR code, scan the QR code, go to our website, click Connect, fill out the Connect card. That's going to give us all of your information and a way for us to get back a hold of you. So 2 ways to get a hold of us and ask your questions. And we would love for you to reach out to us. Now, here we do have 3 services available every single Sunday, and we'd invite you to come and join us for one of those. The first service is at 8:20, second service is at 9:40, and the third service is at 11 o'clock. That's all Sunday morning. We do live stream our 9:40 service. That starts at 9:25 with our pre-show, where we're going to go through all of the announcements, everything that is happening right here at Connections. You're going to find out all of that in our pre-show. And then we're going to wrap it up after that service, sitting back in these chairs and talking about what we just experienced. So join us for that as well if you're watching online. Until then, Jon, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Remember, here at Connections, we love you, but more importantly, Jesus loves you. And we'll see you next time.